Turkey says Europe's offer of a migrant deal is insincere. Reparations are underway for victims of Ivory Coast's deadly 2010 post-election violence, but many still await compensation. And going through hell to tell a story, a reimagining of Dante from an African perspective. Africa 54 starts right now.
Hello, I'm Esther Gidu. Vincent Makori is on assignment. This is Africa 54. We begin our broadcast in North Africa, where Egyptian voters turned out in low numbers Sunday in the first phase of parliamentary elections that are widely expected to strengthen President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's grip on power. The long-delayed vote to fill the 596-member parliament continued Monday in 14 of the 27 provinces where voting opened earlier in the day. Voting will continue November 22nd and 23rd in other parts of the country. Egyptians living abroad began casting ballots Saturday. There was no official or reliable information available on Sunday's turnout, which many analysts predict could be as low as 10%.
Honestly, I won't go there. I see the same candidates running now as they did in previous elections. Most of these candidates are running for their own sake. If I had found someone suitable, I would have voted for him.
The new parliament will be the first elected since the 2014 adoption of a new constitution which empowers lawmakers to impeach a president or call for early elections. However, with most of all of Egypt's political parties sidelined and 3/4 of the available parliamentary seats earmarked for independents, analysts predict the new legislature will overwhelmingly support Sisi and his secular agenda. Final results are expected in early December. In West Africa, Guinea's Alpha Condé has won a second term as president, according to the country's electoral commission. Mr. Condé captured 58% of votes, avoiding a runoff election with the main opposition leader, Cellou Dalein Diallo. Diallo, who denounced the vote as fraudulent, won 31%. Diallo says democracy was not achieved, and he is calling for demonstrations against Condé's re-election. International observers from the European Union say they did not see any fraud during the election. President Condé defeated Diallo in a runoff vote 5 years ago in the country's first democratic election in decades. And Burundi's foreign minister says any mediation effort to resolve the country's political crisis should not involve any threat of sanctions, because he says sanctions do not resolve issues, but rather exacerbate them. Alain Nyamitwe says Burundi is ready to cooperate with the African Union's investigation of any alleged violations of human rights and other abuses against its civilian population. The AU Peace and Security Council met in Ethiopia over the weekend and decided to impose targeted sanctions against Burundians who contribute to the perpetuation of violence, as well as impede the search for a solution to the crisis facing the country. Turning to the European migrant crisis, several thousand migrants remain stranded Monday along the Croatian-Serbian border. They spent a cold night with little food after Hungary shut down its crossing into Croatia on Saturday. About 2,000 people were sitting inside unheated buses Sunday, waiting to cross into Serbia on their way to the European Union. Since Hungary closed off its border crossing with Croatia, the buses are now forced to take a much longer route through Slovenia. That country has decided to limit the number of migrants who can cross each day.
I noticed that this place is not well qualified, yes, to receive refugees. Okay, as you see, yes, we are in cold weather, and the place is not good. As you see, yes, the mud. And yes, the crowded. Yes, the place is so also crowded here, and our message is for the governments, yes, please, to take in consideration our suffering.
While Slovenia says it has no plans right now to close its border, it is limiting the number of those who can cross each day to 2,500 to prevent the tiny EU member from becoming overwhelmed. The EU can expect around 700,000 migrants escaping war and poverty in places such as Syria, Afghanistan and parts of Africa by the end of the year. The European Union leaders have agreed to a plan to offer Turkey $3.5 billion together with visa-free travel and renewed accession talks in return for stopping the flow of refugees and migrants into the EU. But as Henry Ridgwell reports from London, the offer has been given a lukewarm reception in Ankara.
The European money is aimed at helping Turkey improve conditions for the 2 million refugees on its soil and keeping them in Turkey. To sweeten the deal, visa-free travel to the EU for Turkish citizens will be fast-tracked and talks on Turkey joining the Union will be re-energized.
The question of money played a role, as well as the start of a new chapter, by which I mean we will revitalize the perspective for accession.
But Turkey's president said Europe's offer of talks on EU membership was insincere.
Many of the European Union member countries fall behind us in adopting EU rules and regulations. We are ahead of many of these countries in terms of economic progress and criteria. Unfortunately, they are not sincere.
There are other hurdles ahead, not least the question of Turkey's ability to police its own border. Aid groups say 5,000 migrants are arriving in Europe every day. Hungary said Friday it would not close its border with Croatia, despite building a fence along the Serbian frontier. Hungary's ambassador to the United States called on Europe to secure its external borders.
There is an immediate pressure to make sure that the entrance into the European Union Schengen zone is orderly and it goes according to the law.
Germany has said that all EU states should contribute to a common border force, but that raises issues of sovereignty.
Whether the EU member states are willing to take the political step to do something like that, because obviously that's much closer integration.
Meanwhile, Bulgaria is investigating the death of an Afghan migrant on its border with Turkey Thursday. Authorities say he was accidentally killed when police fired warning shots. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54 and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, reparations are underway for war victims in Ivory Coast, but many are still awaiting. Stay with us.
News and notes. This is Living Better.
There are 300 million smokers in China, and now by age 20, 2/3 of young Chinese men are smoking cigarettes, increasing their chance of premature death by 50%, according to a new study published in The Lancet. Researcher Zhengming Chen at the University of Oxford says that cigarette smoking in China has accompanied the country's economic growth.
Since 1990s, with the rapid economic development opened up, and China suddenly produced a very large quantity of cigarettes.
The study's authors say that if the trend continues, by 2030 as many as 2 million Chinese men will be killed by tobacco each year. By contrast, smoking rates among women in China have dropped sharply. About 10% of older Chinese women smoke, but only about 1% of middle-aged women are lighting up. I'm Martin Seacrest for VOA's Living Better.
Today's youth are not just the next generation of African leaders, they are today's leaders. And this is the time to invest in them, today, not tomorrow. So let's connect, let's engage with each other on issues that will transform our societies. Innovation, leadership, entrepreneurship, things that you're doing to move the continent forward, to make you the greatest generation that Africa has known. It's Up Front every Wednesday, 17:30 UTC, right here on the Voice of America.
5 years after the deadly 2010 post-election violence in Ivory Coast, the country is determined to consolidate its peace. And to help in that reconciliation, President Alassane Ouattara created agencies aimed at providing reparation for war victims. The first group of victims was compensated in August, but many are still waiting, and some are losing patience over the lagging process. Emily Ayob reports.
24 years old Samate Abdoulaye is a survivor. He was shot in the head during the post-election violence in Ivory Coast in 2010. His father was killed while out trying to gather money for his son's operation. The family has been struggling to make ends meet ever since. Abdoulaye has lifelong after effects from his war injuries, which prevent him from doing hard physical work to help out his mother and 2 younger siblings. He is currently studying for an office job.
If I have this compensation fund, I will invest it, and it will give me some peace of mind. I will be able to pursue my studies, knowing that my family has something to fall back on financially.
Ivory Coast government has pledged to compensate the victims of the country's various crises between 1990 and 2012. Free health care for injured people, scholarship for war orphans, and cash payment for the families of those killed during the war. But most of the victims still have not received anything, and they are getting impatient. Earlier this month, some of them protested in front of the CONARIB, the government agency in charge of listing all victims entitled to compensation. They were pressing the agency to finally release the list of victims and for war children to have free education.
CONARIB has identified the victims and told us the total from various lists is 130,000 victims. They told us that now they need to verify it and give a definitive list to the president of Ivory Coast so he can validate it, and the victims can't start receiving payment. But since it was created, the CONARIB hasn't been able to produce this list.
The CONARIB was created recently to finish the job of another agency whose list was deemed incomplete after 3 years of work. Commissioner Françoise Kogis Ofumu says there are many challenges to pulling together a definitive list.
There are victims in isolated areas who couldn't be identified. It's for them that we're extending the delay to register.
Kogis also says the verification process takes time, with teams cross-referencing data on computers via phone calls or, when necessary, in the field. There is some progress on the payment front. Last August, 4,500 victims of the 2010-2011 post-election violence received payments. Aya Kwadio was one of them. Both her husband and his brother were killed, leaving 2 wives and 17 children behind. When Kwadio received the money, she divided it among all the children. Now she would like the government to help her children get an education so they can find jobs.
Before school starts, they should say, here are the children of the crisis, here are their cases, here is what we'll do to help them. We shouldn't have to do sit-ins or cry to people. We're tired of begging.
Kwadio adds that she's hopeful that getting some kind of compensation is a good first sign that the reparation process is going in the right direction. Emily Yob for VOA News in Abidjan.
Human Rights Watch is calling on Ugandan authorities to stop obstructing peaceful political gatherings, especially with the use of tear gas, saying on Monday such interference violates people's rights to free assembly and expression. Maria Burnett, a senior Africa researcher at the organization, says the reckless use of tear gas is injuring people and jeopardizing a free and fair democratic atmosphere for campaigns. Uganda is holding a presidential election next year, with campaigning set to begin November 9th. Ugandans have cited frequent use of force by police to prevent opposition leaders from addressing rallies or meeting their supporters. He Named Me Malala is the title of Davis Guggenheim's documentary, which offers a probing look into the life of 18-year-old Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistan teenager who in 2012 was shot in the head by the Taliban. She was targeted for standing up for her rights to education in her hometown in Pakistan's Swat Valley. Guggenheim shows how since then Malala has become a symbol, not as a victim of brutal violence, but as a worldwide advocate for girls' education. VOA's Penelope Pulu tells us more.
There is a moment when you have to choose whether to be silent or to stand up.
On October 9, 2012, Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head by the Taliban on her way home from school in Pakistan. Her crime? She believed in her right to education at a time when the Taliban was bombing schools in the Swat Valley. Her wounds were critical. But Malala Yousafzai survived stronger than ever.
They shot me on the left side of my head. They thought that the bullet would silence us. I am the same Malala.
1, 2, 3, go. To understand Malala's personality and inner power, Davis Guggenheim explores her family dynamics, especially her bond with her dad.
When she was very small, many friends used to come to our home. We used to talk about politics, we used to talk about the basic rights, and she used to sit with us.
When I was young, I used to listen to him. Like, what is he saying, how he talks.
Davis Guggenheim says that Malala's life was almost prescribed from the moment her father, himself an activist, named her after a 19th century Afghan folk heroine.
She was inspired by the girl she was named after, the Malala of Maiwand, that girl who spoke out for what she believed and rallied the Afghan troops to defeat the British.
The film also shows that after Malala was shot, her father was devastated because he felt responsible for raising her with ideas that endangered her life. But Malala thinks otherwise.
My father only gave me the name Malala. He didn't make me Malala.
Still, the film raises the question, what formed Malala into the person she is today?
I chose this life.
Who would you have been if you were just an ordinary girl from the Swat Valley?
If I was an ordinary girl in Swat Valley, I'm still an ordinary girl. But if I had an ordinary father and an ordinary mother and a family, a conservative family, then I would have 2 children now.
After a slow and painful recovery, Malala made it her goal to rally for girls' education the world over. Guggenheim describes her as fearless.
Malala, speaks to world leaders. We were in Nigeria when the girls had been kidnapped for a long period of time, and she insisted to sit down with President Goodluck Jonathan and said, "What are you doing about these girls? It's your job to get them released." She met President Obama and asked him about drone strikes.
Nobel Peace Prize is to be awarded to Malala Yousafzai.
That fearlessness and her message brought her the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014.
She is something to teach the world, not just because she was a girl who was shot on the school bus, not just because of her advocacy work, but because she has a very, very deep soul. She's a very spiritual person, and I think she has a strong voice that speaks to a lot of people who are voiceless.
I tell my story not because it is unique, it is the story of many girls. We realize the importance of light when we see darkness, the importance of our voice when we are silenced. Let us pick up our books and our pens. They are our most powerful weapons.
Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Heaven, Purgatory and Hell through the eyes of an African artist. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In South Sudan, rebel leader Riek Machar accuses the country's president Salva Kiir of being oblivious to a peace deal which aimed to end a 2-year civil war. In Libya, security officials detain 102 migrants as they attempt to board boats to Europe. In Egypt, voter turnout is low in long-delayed parliamentary elections under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Finally, in Guinea, the opposition calls for supporters to protest against election fraud and vote rigging after the Electoral Commission declares President Alpha Condé the winner. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. A popular Western food trend takes off in Cambodia. A fleet of new food trucks is rolling into Phnom Penh, bringing international flair to the capital's street food scene. Selling food and drinks from mobile carts is a popular way for migrants in Cambodia to finance the move from the countryside to the city. Responding to urban economic growth, entrepreneurs are tapping into a niche market for upmarket street food. Crepes made on camping stove and served with a range of toppings offer a welcome taste of France. Ramen noodles serve homemade Japanese noodles with trimmings like wasabi, seaweed, and boiled eggs. Next up, Showtime's hit show Homeland generates a controversy of a different kind. Producers had asked for something generic. They suggested Muhammad is the greatest to give the feel of a Hezbollah-run refugee camp. But the group of the artists hired for the job decided to make a statement. The message that was seen by more than 1 million viewers when the episode aired in the U.S. on Sunday was Homeland is racist. Other messages include Homeland is a joke, and it didn't make us laugh. Homeland is not a TV series. There is no Homeland, and Black Lives Matter. The artists published the details on the web, and the images quickly went viral. And finally, Yahoo moves towards making passwords per se. The company is beefing up cybersecurity by eliminating passwords. The company announced users of its Yahoo Mail app will have new service called Yahoo Account Key. The service uses smartphones to verify identity instead of a password. When the user tries to log on, the service sends a message to a smartphone connected to the account. With a tap on yes or no, users can indicate if it is a legitimate attempt to get into the account or deny access. If their smartphone is lost or stolen, users can verify the identities through an email or a text message sent to alternative email accounts and phone numbers. And that's what's trending today. And after years in development, the Smithsonian Museum of African Art in Washington, D.C. now features cutting-edge artwork by more than 40 contemporary African artists from 18 countries, as well as African diaspora. VOA's Caroline Turner has more.
This exhibit explores the themes of Dante's epic poem, The Divine Comedy: heaven, purgatory, and hell. Through a variety of media, this exhibit features works by more than 40 contemporary African artists that transcends Western traditions and resonates with diverse contemporary cultures, belief systems, and political issues.
It really reveals how one person's heaven may not be another. It's an exhibition about the good, the bad, and the in-between, and how each of us sees that in a different way. So the painting behind me is by the Paris-based Cameroonian artist Billy Bijoka. It's actually accompanied by 3 artist books, and Billy is he's quite a character, and so he actually says, you know, that each time he reads the Divine Comedy, he thinks about how he could write it better. There are 3 different realms in the exhibition. There's heaven, purgatory, and hell. Within heaven, you have multiple views of what paradise might be. Directly behind me is a sculpture by the artist Agata Amer. She's Egyptian, though now she's based in New York City. And with each of these pieces, it's a different kind of heaven. So with the Blue Bra Girls, it's a piece really about women standing up for themselves. It's named the Blue Bra Girls after the well-known 2011 photograph during the uprisings in Egypt. She made it as a tribute to that unknown woman and to all women who have the courage to stand up for their convictions, for their political views, and for themselves. When looking at the sculpture, if you start at the top, you'll see their faces and their hair as it tangles together, and then as you follow down, you'll actually see multiple figures of females, of women.
The exhibit and artistic expressions of heaven reflect the diverse views of the artist's interpretations of the sublime. Carolyn Turner, VOA News.
Now, Sunny Young is on assignment in Nigeria and will be back with Sunny Side of Sports and Africa 54 live on Friday. However, appearing on our partner station in Lagos, Channels TV, Sunny recently spoke with Dindi Madu, who plays with the Nigerian women's team. Before joining the Tigres, she was a standout at the U.S. at the University of Florida in Gainesville. Here's Sunny and Dindi.
Now, Ndidi, I understand the USA might have had a little bit of a role in developing your basketball skills.
They did. You know, I went to the University of Florida. I'm a Gator. Go Gators. And so, you know, I grew up in the U.S. and so I've been playing basketball in the U.S. My whole life until 2013. With 2012, actually, when I started my collegiate, my professional career in Spain, and then I actually had a chance to play with the national team for the first time in 2013, but you know, up until 2012, USA basketball, you know, playing in the U.S. is all I really knew.
How did Nigeria approach you to be on the women's team?
Well, it was actually Helen, the captain of the Tigers, and I got in contact with her, and I just expressed to her that I want to play for Nigeria. You know, what do I need to do? What's the steps? I'm ready to do it. And so she just really was just awesome, and she really helped me in every step of the way. And so she sent my film in to the federation and everything, and then I got my official invitation to training camp. And from there, it just, you know, I've been part of the team. So I'm just very grateful for that opportunity.
Do you find the international style of play different from, say, when you played at Florida?
I played at the University of Florida, and it was an SEC. You know, it was a top level university. It was fast paced. It was physical. So it actually prepared me for this, you know. So it was like I experienced a lot of different things when I played in the university. So when I got to Spain, or it came over here to Nigeria to play, it was actually like prepared. It was not really anything that I haven't seen before. So, you know, I was used to the physical game, being bumped, being pushed, you know, having to play strong, having to play at a high level, fast. So for me, I'm pretty sure like many people can point out a lot of differences, but for me, it's just like basketball is basketball for me. You know what I mean? I just try to, you know, just play.
By taking a third place in the recent AfroBasket 2015 tournament, the Dindi Madu and her team have improved their chances of representing Nigeria at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune into VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching and good night from Washington.